All right, well, welcome everybody. My name is Stephen Aldaco, and we have a very, very, very special guest. Her name is Sara, also known as Sights of Sara, and she's an amazing, inspiring young woman. She has traveled on in her van, and she's traveled in her van all across America. She's lived in Maui, Hawaii, Maui, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Maui, Hawaii. She's lived in Alaska. She's in lived in Yosemite. And her story is super awesome and super inspirational. And I'm happy to have her on and share her story with you guys. So thank you so much for being here, Sara. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing awesome. A little caffeinated and ready to rock.
Me too. Yeah.
Tell us how you started your van life journey or your SUV life. You kind of converted your SUV to travel across America. How did that come about?
So when I was 18, it was like time to decide what I wanted to do for college, like for my future. And I had no idea. All I knew is that I wanted to travel. And so I decided to move to California. And so going from like a small town in California, or sorry, small town in upstate New York to a major city in California, like there's so many different paths to take. And it was like everything opened up and I was able to choose like so many different like future life paths that fit with what I wanted to do. And then that's where I learned about doing van life. And I just kind of decided I quit my job and I packed up my SUV and hit the road with some friends. And yeah, it's been great. I love it so much.
That's so wild. And so how did you come across like the vehicle you have? I think something that a lot of people kind of struggle with if they're starting to think about van life is like, oh, I need this custom like Mercedes, like Sprinter van, whatever. And you and I know that's not the case. So like how did it come about with your car situation? How did you pick that specific vehicle?
Yeah, so I wanted something small because I didn't want to. I was considering a bus, but then I'm like, a bus is huge. It
Yeah.
would be like like stick out like a sore thumb if I was like camping or parking. So I wanted something just like that looks like an everyday vehicle. And then once you like went inside, it was like that's a whole nother world in here. So I definitely wanted something small yet spacious. But I really love. I have a Ford Escape, and it's the perfect fit. I am 5'8" and I just barely fit in there. So, but all of my stuff fits in there and it works great. So, yeah, I love it.
I've seen like some of the videos you posted on TikTok, and the setup is like super beautiful. Like it's got like a feminine touch, which I could appreciate, you
Yeah.
know. And we'll put some videos like over this interview so you guys can actually like see what it's like. But I think she did a really good job, and you did it like very, very cheaply or inexpensive. You know, it didn't cost you much
Yeah.
to convert it, so that's
Yeah.
super
No.
awesome. All right. So amongst your travels, like what was the hardest part about doing van life? Because it's not all like sunshine and rainbows in van life as much as like Instagram and sometimes TikTok like portrays it to be that way. There's a
For
lot of
sure.
struggles. What are some of the things that you came across that were like difficult?
So finding a safe place to park is probably like the biggest one. Like the first thing I have to decide before it gets dark is where am I going to be sleeping that's safe and that's comfortable. And so I'd mostly spend the nights in like hotel parking lots or the back of Walmart's parking lots.
Yep.
And like maybe here and there like a campground or two, like a free campsite. And then I'm trying to think what else. Probably staying warm at night during the winter is one of the hardest for
Oh no,
sure.
oh my God, I know. Yeah.
It's terrible, but I have a pretty good setup. So I have a down sleeping bag, and then I put a blanket in there. I have like heat trapping socks
Oh,
and
okay, cool.
a scarf hat, and then a big jacket, pants, and you're pretty good all night long. So those are probably the two major things, and like probably the most questions I get all the time is where do you park and how do you stay warm? So
Yeah, and it's parking the hotel parking lot. I saw that you like just went in and you're like, hey, like I'm gonna stay the night in the parking lot. Is that okay? And most of the time
yeah.
that probably wasn't an issue, right?
Yeah, so I've worked in hotels and
Mm,
like anything I could do to like help somebody out. Like that it's such a small ask, like hotel
yeah.
parking lots are huge and one spot in my again like that it comes down to like my car doesn't look like a giant RV, like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
one spot, and odds are nobody would even know that I'm in there. So
So you went all across the states. I think you went back to visit your friend in Florida. But how did you end up in Maui? Like you lived there for a little bit, you worked there and you lived there for free. Like how did that come about?
yeah, so I went through a program called WOOF, which stands for Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms. And you basically pay $40 a year. And with that $40, you get a database of like thousands of farms across the US that need like help and labor on their farms. And I knew that I really wanted to go to Hawaii and specifically Maui. So I found a fruit farm on the north shore of Maui. And it looked so beautiful. They were asking for 15 hours a week of labor. In exchange, I got to live in a tent on a farm with like 4 or 5 other girls. Um, and we had our kitchen. It was like an old bus, and it had running water, heated water. We had an outdoor heated shower, which was beautiful. But basically, what the farm owner asked for was just 15 hours of work a week. It was like I think it was 3 days every other day. So we'd have like every other day was basically a day off. And we would scrub sugarcane and weed sugarcane patches and like do other small jungle tasks. And then we go live in our tents, and then we'd hitchhike around the island. And yeah, it was
That's
amazing. I had a great time.
That's so crazy. Like I've been to Maui and it's an absolutely beautiful place to visit, but it's so freaking expensive. Like
Mhm.
if you don't have a place to stay, it's gonna cost you a ton of money. And sometimes like shipping your van there to live there isn't quite ideal. So the Wolf program sounds pretty awesome. And I've seen or heard from other people that it's really cool too. So
Yeah, I loved it.
yeah. So then you went to Maui and then you lived in Yosemite. Was that the same program or was that through the government or something?
No, so basically how I'm starting to get like more international park work. So in um
Oh, cool.
in Hawaii, it was like I was volunteering my time in exchange for accommodation, whereas in Yosemite, I got hired by I think it's called the concessionaire, which is like the company that runs like the lodging and the food in Yosemite. So the national park system oversees like park rangers and maintenance, whereas
Right.
like
Oh, okay.
hotels and stuff, like the more touristy stuff, that's where Aramark, the concessionaire for Yosemite, comes in and like hires a bunch of people. So it was like a full-time job. It was 40 hours a week,
Wow.
minimum wage, but you got to live there for $80 a month. So it was amazing because I was saving so much money because my rent was so cheap and I didn't have to pay like utilities and all that stuff. So, and I just like lived right there in that small little community. So it was amazing.
Part of the perks about living in a van, or I guess like over in Yosemite, is not paying rent.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
save so much money, and that's like one of the best things about like living the van life.
I would say so.
Yeah. So at some point you hopped on a train and then you were in like a train crash or something crazy like that. Oh my
It,
God. We got to
yeah.
hear this.
Okay, it was like the worst experience of my entire life. Back in so basically I was in Hawaii, and then the coronavirus lockdown happened, and I had to fly back to New York. And I had a job in Alaska lined up for the summer, and I decided to still go since they were gonna. I still wanted to work, and I still wanted to go to Alaska, and they were offering me employment and housing. So I was like, how can I pass up this opportunity? So I decided to take a train across the country from Rochester, New York to Seattle, Washington, and
Oh,
then
I,
from
I didn't even know
Seattle,
it was that far. That's insane.
I think it's like 3,000 miles. Yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
so I decided to complicate the travel. So I hop on this train, and the whole trip was, I think, 3 days and like overnights and stuff.
Yeah.
And you didn't get off. You only got off once, which in Chicago. So I got off my first train in Chicago, got back on the next train, and I had eaten at some place in the Chicago bus station. And once I got on the train, I noticed I started to feel really, really sick. And so then a night goes by, so like probably like 15 hours, and I am just very ill, like the
Oh,
most ill probably I've ever been. And I'm on this train, and I'm like, I
oh
have
no.
2 days left. Or I have like, I think it was like 30, 40 hours left. I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. And so basically, hours go by. I'm in Montana, and I'm in the Montana countryside. Again, ill like I've never been before. And I wake up from a 1 hour nap, the only hour of sleep I got the entire night. I wake up and all of a sudden the train goes boom, and like everything starts shaking, and where everyone is looking around, and I just remember it like the most chaotic, and like instantly you're like something is wrong, something is
Oh my
very
God.
wrong, because trains are pretty like smooth, they ride super smooth, and they're very quiet. So for all of a sudden this train to be shaking, like, and then I just remember it coming to an abrupt halt, and it was just dead silent because everyone was like, oh my God, what just happened? And I remember somebody screamed, fire, fire. And
Oh
I look
my
out on both
God.
sides of the train, and there's just fire, like on the grass. And I'm like, the attendants aren't saying anything on the PA. And I'm like, do I get off? Like, I immediately call my family. I'm like,
Whoa.
we just hit something. And like, they were just like, what? Like, what? And they were terrified. I was terrified. It was one of the scariest and most insane things to ever happen to me. But basically the train had hit a tractor that was on the train tracks, and
Jeez.
had actually derailed from the impact. So
Oh,
we were in the Montana countryside, and we had to be bused to a nearby town, population 700. So the
oh my
smallest
God.
town I've
Oh
ever
my
been to.
God.
And meanwhile, I'm extremely sick, and I had to stay in Montana and by myself, like in the middle of this town I've never been to, in the hospital, and get better. It was a terrible experience, but I wish I could do it over again just to like make it better, make it a better experience for me. But yeah,
And just fly. Just make it simple and just fly to
I
Alaska.
know. People are like, "You're never gonna get on a train again, are you?" I'm like, "You know what? I would. I would get on a train again." It was terrifying, but I wanna make the experience right, you know?
Well, if for those of you out there who have never been traveling by train, it sucks. I don't recommend it either. Take a bus. It's much better than taking a train, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah,
Oh my God, that is insane. Well, I'm glad you're safe. I mean,
thank you.
that's absolutely insane. So, you know, is there anybody out there who like inspired your travels, or like do you have heroes that you look up to, who really help you pursue and just go after the things that you want to do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I found this girl on TikTok actually recently. So probably before I saw her, I was kind of my own hero because I was just like inspiring myself and like pushing myself. Um,
Superwoman.
and never really like looked up to anyone specifically because they were doing what I was doing. But I found this girl on TikTok. Her name is Cassie DePeckle, and she is the first woman on record to travel to every single sovereign nation in the world. So she went to 196 countries, and by herself. And so she posts like TikToks on her experience, and she has a YouTube channel where she talks about her experience traveling to every country as a woman. And she is just amazing. She's been on Naked and Afraid on I don't even know what channel it's on, but it's like one of those survival shows. Like, I just look at her and I'm like, what an amazing woman, you know? Like, oh my gosh, I just love her so much. And like, she has a book on her travels around the world, and it's my goal one day to go to every single country in the world. So,
Oh, wow.
um, I definitely admire her, and just kind of showing women everywhere that like you can do this too, and like just such good badass energy, you know? What we all need to embody. So yeah.
I mean, traveling as a female, it presents its own complications and problems. So, I mean, for someone like you just to go out there and like show other women that, yeah, you absolutely can do it.
Mhm.
And I think it's a great thing, and it's a great message. And I wish the world was just a safer place for women to go out and do what they want to do. And I hope that one day we'll just make this a normal thing, women traveling and not have it to be such a big issue, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so before we like end this, I want to know if you have any sort of like tips or advice for expiring van lifers, anything that you can like recommend to help them like on their adventures just to get started.
Mhm. So I'd say that it doesn't matter what vehicle you have, doesn't matter who you're with, or if you have like the fanciest gear. just bring common sense and street smarts and a need for adventure, and you will do just fine. And my biggest piece of advice would be to just go for it and not wait for anybody else to join you, because you're never going to find that perfect person to join you, and you might as well just do it by yourself because you'll be waiting forever. So if you're contemplating van life or starting a big adventure, do not wait for anybody else. Get out there and make it happen for yourself. So that's all I have to say on the matter.
Just do it. Just go for it. Wow, awesome. Well, hey, thank you so very much for taking your time to share your story. Like, we super appreciate it. I'll leave your links down below to your YouTube channel, to your TikTok. And then I think you're also working on an ebook, right? To like help teach other people like how to do this themselves.
Yeah, so I have a 32-page guidebook. It's called Guide to Being a Nomad, and it's basically where I talk about all of the tips and resources I use as traveling as a woman.
Awesome.
For starting from age 19, I'm 21 now, but sharing all of my resources and how to get jobs in national parks. And basically, it's just an entire book on traveling as a woman, and kind of hacking the system, hacking life, and getting out
Yeah.
of your basic society standards and getting out there and exploring the world.
Hell yeah. We'd love to hear it. All right. Thank you so much. Where can we find you on like socials?
Yep, I am Sights of Sarah on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Awesome. Hey, thank you so much once again. Thank you everybody for tuning into this. If you like these like kind of interview things, I'm hoping to do a bit more. So if you want to be a guest on this, or if you know anybody who you think would be a good guest, leave a comment down below and let me know who they are and how I can connect with them. But other than that, you guys take care. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.